Warning: the following video contains disturbing material that may be inappropriate for younger viewers. Parental discretion is advised. Dennis Rader, who took 10 innocent lives in the area of Wichita, Kansas as the BTK killer, which stands for Bind, Torture, and Kill, seemingly had his twisted MO figured out to a T. A family man, government worker, and a church leader by day, Rader was smart enough to blend into the community and avoid detection for the string of victims, stalking and killing that fulfilled his sexual desires. And while he relished the headlines that announced his grotesque acts and the taunting messages he relayed to the media, he also controlled his impulses enough to suddenly stop the killings and disappear before authorities could get close to his trail. Yet it was his insatiable lust for attention that ultimately provided to be his Achilles heel. BTK re-emerged years later to remind the police that he remained at large, but got too careless with his cat and mouse games, providing investigators with an opening to crack the case that was once unsolvable and bring the killer to justice. Dennis Rader was born on March 9th, 1945, in the quiet corner of Kansas, close to where Oklahoma and Missouri come together. His father was in the United States Marine Corps and later worked for the Kansas Electric Utility following World War II. Young Rader joined the Boy Scouts as a youth and participated in group activities at the Lutheran Church. He attended Riverview Elementary School, where he was an average to below average student and exhibited an introverted and withdrawn personality. By his own admission, Rader developed fantasies about domination, bondage, and torture at a very early age. While still in grade school, Rader admits to having killed cats and dogs by hanging and strangling them as a youth. By puberty, he already dreamed of tying girls up and having sex with them. He says that his fantasies were almost like a picture show that he wanted to direct and produce, no matter at what cost. He graduated from Wichita High School in the class of 1963. He had a job for a while working at a local grocery store. In the summer of 1966, at the age of 21, Rader joined the U.S. Air Force, promptly to avoid being drafted into the Vietnam War. While in the Air Force, Rader would peek through window blinds and watch women undress, and he broke into their homes to steal their undergarments. Less than a year following his return from service to Wichita, on May 22, 1971, Rader married a young woman named Paula Dietz. In July 1973, he found employment with a small aircraft manufacturer. In the fall of 1973, he began working towards his bachelor's degree at Wichita State University. He dreamed of becoming a police officer, and in late 1973, Rader let go of the job at the small aircraft manufacturer. He suddenly found himself unemployed and in a bad state of mind, unhappy and with free time on his hands. He slipped deeper into the dark fantasy world that he had known since he was a child, and wanted to know just what it would feel like to strangle a woman with his bare hands until she died. He was obsessed with pornography and liked to daydream. By 1974, Rader was compelled to act on his obsessive fantasy. He had trained himself how to kill and avoid detection. He had learned to tie knots and nooses. Dennis Rader was ready. There was a new Latino family that had moved into the neighborhood, and Rader lustfully noticed Julie Ortego, age 34, and her daughter, Josephine, age 11. He had a thing for Latinas, admiring their beautiful brown skin and dark hair. Rader stalked Julie and Josephine for weeks to learn their daily routines. Based on what he learned from his surveillance, he devised a plan to take them by surprise in their own home. Young Josephine was the prize he sought. He gathered together his so-called hit kit, which included a gun, knives, hoods, cords, tapes, plastic bags and gloves, and various other tools for breaking and entering. On the morning of January 15th, he could wait no longer. At 8:20 a.m., he went to their house, entered the backyard, and cut the phone line. Upon entering the house, despite his careful planning, things did not go as expected. Rader discovered that in addition to the two females, Julie's husband Joe, age 38, and Joey, the couple's 9-year-old son, were also home. The other three children, Charlie, Danny, and Carmen, were not home. Undeterred, Rader somehow was able to control all four people using his gun. He told them that he was a criminal on the run and needed money for food and a car to escape. Using his cold, unemotional, and non-threatening demeanor, Rader convinced the family that he meant no harm, and he was able to get them all tied up without incident. Everything changed for the worse when Rader put the bag over Joe's head that morning. He was about to become a mass murderer by killing a family of 4 in succession. Rader strangled and killed Father Joe and Little Joey. Mother Julie begged Rader to stop before she too was strangled to death. Rader then moved to his real target, the daughter Josephine. Rader forced her to go down to the basement where he hung Josephine from a sewer pipe. In a letter to Rader, they asked him why he did this. His response was, "I thought it'd be interesting to watch her die." Rader would go on to kill again on April 4th, 1974. Catherine Bright enters her home with her brother Kevin to find Rader waiting with a gun. Kevin somehow survives a gunshot wound to the head, but was unable to save his sister, who Rader stabbed to death. Then, on October 1974, Rader makes the BTK killer known to the police, after a young man allegedly confessed to killing the Orteros with two friends. An editor from the Wichita Eagle receives a strange phone call that directs him to a mechanical engineering book at the Wichita Public Library. Police find the book and a letter wedged inside, which reads, in part, "Those three dudes you have in custody are just talking to get publicity. The code words will be bind them, torture them, kill them. BTK. You'll see it again. They will be on the next victim," along with including the unknown details in the Ortego killings. The letter is filled with what authorities come to recognize as the killer's particular brand of misspellings and grammatical errors, along with a distinct sexually suggestive signature. In March 17th, 1977, BTK murders a mother of three, entering the home by the way of a 5-year-old child who opens the door. Rader barricades the boy and his two siblings in their bedroom before strangling their mother. The children eventually escape and provide police with a vague description of the murderer. In December 8th, 1977, BTK reports his next victim. After binding and strangling 25-year-old Nancy Fox, Rader heads to the payphone to point police to his handiwork. He bluntly tells the 911 dispatcher. January 19th, 1991, kills for the last time. BTK throws a cinder block through the sliding door of a home of retiree Doris Davis, strangling her to death, and leaves her body by a bridge. Seeming preoccupied by the day-to-day duties as a Park City compliance officer and a father of two, Rader stops killing and BTK drops off the map. In January 2004, 3 decades after he killed the Orteros, the Wichita Eagle prints an article recalling the terror BTK withheld on the 1970s and suggested that he had faded from memory after so many years. Rader later admits that the article spurs him to revive his deadly alter ego. March 19, 2004, BTK announces his return. The Wichita Eagle receives an envelope from a Bill Thomas Killman containing a copy of one of his victims' missing driver's license, photos of her and BTK's distinctive signature, a chilling message that links her unsolved murder to the BTK and declares the Wichita Terror to be very much alive. Then, on February 16, 2005, a computer disk breaks the case wide open. A computer disk arriving by mail is relayed to cyber cop Randy Stone, who uncovers BTK's message about checking index cards for more information, along with a hidden metabase that reveals the disk to have been used by a dentist at a Christ Lutheran Church and Park City Library. Within seconds, an internet search for Christ Lutheran Church reveals the name of its president, Dennis Rader. Armed with DNA evidence carefully preserved, Lieutenant Landwehr and his team learned that Rader's daughter, Carrie, had been in the hospital for a pap smear. The hospital soon returned over a sample of her DNA, which matches the BTK killer. February 25th, 2005, Rader is arrested. Heading home from the office to have lunch with his wife, Rader is pulled over by a line of police cars, trailing him and taking him into custody. He confessed after being confronted with the DNA evidence, and enjoys what he believes is a bonding session with law enforcement agents, although he is plainly irritated. BTK's arrest is announced to Wichita City Hall the following day, drawing applause from the audience gathered. June 27th, 2005, Rader pleads guilty to the BTK killings, catching prosecutors off guard by pleading guilty to 10 counts of first-degree murder. His lawyer later notes that they went with a guilty plea due to an overwhelming evidence against their client and the lack of firm legal footing on which to enter an insanity plea. The 2-day sentence hearing features testimony from investigators who describe Rader's documents of his own torture-fueled sexual fantasies, emotional pleas from the victims' families, and an apology from the convicted killer, who expresses hope that their families will one day forgive him. Having committed his murders before Kansas reintroduced the death penalty in 1994, the BTK killer received a sentence of 10 consecutive life terms in prison for a minimum of 175 years without the possibility of parole. Dennis Rader is currently held in the El Dorado Correctional Facility, where he will remain there for the rest of his days. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment who you think the next serial killer is going to be. And also remember to comment down below anything having to do with the video for a chance to be on a daily shout out. You can also follow me or reach out to me on Twitter, and I have a Twitch channel that I play some games on. Both will be linked in the description down below. Until next time, guys, sweet dreams.